Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Ray Thompson and I am the Director of Product Marketing here at Avid for all things video and video post. And I want to welcome you all today to our Break the Content Silo webinar, which is the third webinar we're doing with Avid and Adobe. Today, we're going to be focusing on small to medium post environments, and we'll be covering editorial management and how editorial management now collaborates with Adobe Premiere Pro and Avid NEXIS. So welcome and thank you all for taking the time to join our webinar today. The goals of today's webinar are as follows. By the end of it, you should have a good understanding of A, what editorial management is, B, how editorial management integrates with Adobe Premiere Pro, what's possible with the new release, and all the workflows that we are enabling specific to small, medium posts. And then we'll also be discussing what's making this all possible, which is the collaboration happening between Avid and Adobe. And then we'll give a nod as well to larger posts, which we covered on an earlier webinar. And then we'll talk about any upcoming webinars that you may be interested in. Today's agenda, we'll cover some logistics for the webinar. We'll do some quick introductions. I'll touch on Avid as an overview very quickly. And then we'll talk about the products that we will reference throughout the presentation today. And then we'll get into what we're enabling with editorial management and the panel for Adobe Premiere Pro. We'll talk about the workflows that are now enabled as a net result of that interoperability. And then we'll talk about the demo itself, which we'll get from Michael and Marjorie. And then we'll talk about some of the deployable topologies and show you kind of what you can do with what we're rolling out today. And then we'll talk about the Avid Adobe partnership, and then we'll do some questions at the end. So to that end, just some logistics. So if you're on the Zoom today, once again, thank you for being here. You see you have your little QA panel that you can use to basically ask a question at any time. We have several experts from Avid on the line to assist and answer questions as you ask them throughout the course of the webinar. And then at the end, what we'll do is we will answer any questions live that we can, and we'll try and get it, if not all of them, we'll get to as many as we can. And then when the webinar is over, know that we will share the recorded version of this webinar along with questions that were asked during the webinar with all the answers that were provided either in the webinar or post. All right, and here is our panel for today. We're fortunate enough to have Van Bedient today, who's the head of strategic development from Adobe. So Van is on the call today. We have Michael Krulik, who is our video product evangelist here at Avid, and he will be doing the demo along with Marjorie Sachs, who is a software engineer at Adobe. So thank you all for being part of this webinar and for such a distinguished panel today for being part of the webinar. So real quick, we realize that oftentimes when folks jump on webinars, they may not be 100% familiar with Avid and who Avid is. So Avid has been around for 30 years and has been delivering products into the media and entertainment space for that time frame. Everything from ingesting content to storing content, certainly managing and aggregating content, editing, automation, orchestration, graphics, publishing, and playout are all part of the Avid toolset. And when it comes to editing, certainly editing music as well, and Pro Tools. Pro Tools is certainly a stalwart in the industry and a standard. And our products are used by a wide variety of folks in the industry, including students, media professionals, aspiring creatives, musicians, certainly artists, and then large media companies, including film companies, television production companies, news and sports broadcasters, certainly post-production. We also have quite a bit in the government and corporate segments as well. So Avid's, as you can see, offers a wide breadth of products for basically management and movement and sort of orchestration of media. And we definitely have a broad array of customers who take advantage of those tool sets. In terms of the products that we'll be referencing today, we'll be talking about Avid's editorial management. We'll be talking about our editorial management panel and connector for Adobe Premiere Pro. And then we'll be talking about the Avid NEXIS storage platform. Avid NEXIS, if you're not familiar with it, is Avid's tiered storage platform. It includes the Avid NEXIS file system, and the Avid NEXIS file system integrates to a variety of different storage options that really cater to small to medium post, to some of the largest media organizations in the world and everything in between. And it starts at the top with high performance SSDs that enable things like UHD editing, as well as finishing and color correction type workflows. And then you have the middle tier there that covers, again, a variety of different sized options that cater to, post, broadcast, and news and sports. And we also have a nearline option as well, where you can park NEXIS workspaces and keep everything inside of the Avid file system for easy access. And then, of course, NEXIS does extend into the cloud with NEXIS Cloud Spaces as one option. Avid and Microsoft have had a long-standing relationship now, which we just recently extended earlier in the year. And one of the sort of core tenets of that relationship has been the Avid NEXIS file system integration into Azure Blob Storage. And you'll be seeing over the next year or so a number of different SaaS-based offerings coming from Avid that are going to be the net result of that. And so that's something that allows us to extend easily into the cloud. So you may ask why this deeper interoperability is required between Adobe and Avid. Well, certainly, even before the pandemic hit, you had a growing number of folks who are working in distributed environments with a distributed workforce. Now, post-COVID, we certainly have a lot more folks working from home. Working remotely used to mean I was working, say, from a set. Now it means I'm primarily working from home. So being able to not only connect folks remotely, but also to be able to do it reliably has been one of the key things. The other core requirement is being able to prep projects. So anybody doing post understands that it's important to be able to not only prepare projects and media ahead of time, but to be able to do so and do so quickly so that when the craft editor actually gets to the project, all that work has already been done and they can focus on doing their job, which is editing content. We want cross-platform access, so we wanted to be able to take what had already been done in the past and really increase the capabilities across the board when you have mixed or all Adobe environments sitting on Avid production infrastructure. So we wanted to enable third-party tool sets, be able to access NEXIS tiered storage. We had people who have requested the ability to not only access storage, but of course be able to search for and find content very quickly. Once they find it, they want to be able to edit it and share it very easily without having to really worry about what the media type is and or what the wrapper would be. This is all on a shared common platform, and this is all catered to deliver to a growing number of partners. As we all know, as consumer habits have changed, people are accessing content from a growing number of service providers. And at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is drive a higher efficiency across the organization, enable greater collaboration, while improving time to market for all content. And of course, being able to access media from anywhere is critical, and that's one of the key things from editorial management, as well as MediaCentral for that matter, which is the ability to, through a browser-based interface, access content and access content remotely, while at the same time enabling folks through, say, PCOIP technology like Teradici to tunnel in and access content and their application running on a workstation that may be sitting in a brick and mortar facility or in the cloud for that matter. So again, what's driving a lot of this change as consumer habits have certainly shifted and become more and more reliant on social and digital platforms for their content. And as mobile devices become more and more powerful, and as 5G starts to roll out, that is only going to continue in terms of a trend. And so the impact that has had on both the operations and the economics of media companies, regardless of whether they're post or sports or news, has been significant. So now there's an enormous amount of pressure for post-production companies to be able to deliver content faster, to be able to do multiple processes at the same time, and at the same time be able to deliver content to more and more partners in a variety of different formats and packaging, and do so much faster. And at the same time, as they're deploying their sort of strategies from a technology perspective to meet that demand, they also have to consider how they can leverage the cloud in order to expand that. And so there's a lot to think about nowadays, especially if you're doing post-production work, and especially as you're considering your environment. One of the key things that our customers have been asking us for is a deeper integration between Avid and Adobe, and specifically Premiere Pro, in order to enable Premiere Pro clients to access the same infrastructure that the rest of the organization is accessing, to have a seamless integration. So to that end, what is editorial management? Editorial management is a tool that's really dedicated to our post-production needs. So this enables clients through a simple web browser to browse, search for, and find content that's sitting on a NEXIS and be able to do so from really anywhere. When they find that content, they can also do some editing of that content right within the browser. One of the other key things when it comes to search is Avid's ability to offer phonetic search. Phonetic search is basically an Avid-specific tool set that allows you to search for content based on the spoken word. So I can type in a word or phrase, and that content will then be analyzed in a matter of seconds, and you'll be able to find really any place in a clip where that word or phrase was spoken. It gives you a little tick mark inside of the clip, and you'll see that in a moment. And what that allows you to do is very quickly edit that piece of content and put it in your timeline. And that saves literally, in many cases, tens, sometimes hundreds of hours for folks who use that feature. And again, this is all accessible via the browser. This also allows all the pre-production work to happen and happen more quickly. And it also allows for review type workflows and review and approval type workflows. So you can modify metadata and that ripples throughout anyone who's got access to that project. And the last but certainly not least is the fact that it's very easy to configure and set up. So whereas MediaCentral and MediaCentral Cloud UX has the ability to integrate to production asset management and media asset management, where there's a lot more in terms of orchestration and automation capabilities, oftentimes for small to medium post organizations, that really isn't necessary. And to that end, being able to configure editorial management with NEXIS is very, very simple. And now we've integrated the editorial management as a panel inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. So what we're enabling is the ability to do a lot of the same things that I just talked about from an editorial management panel or through the browser, I should say. And you can now access all of those capabilities using the panel inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. So inside of Adobe Premiere Pro, you have the editorial management panel running. You can search for and find content, regardless of where it sits on the NEXIS file system. And as long as you've got permission to see it, you can find it. And then you can easily either playback that content inside of the panel, or you can actually take that content and bring it directly into Adobe Premiere. Once it's inside of Premiere, you can further edit that content using the powerful tool sets available inside of Premiere, and then you can take the resulting media and share it back out into the environment. This allows you to work natively with OP1A media, and it's all sitting on top of a scalable NEXIS system, which is proven in post-production workflows. In terms of the topologies that we're enabling, we're certainly enabling mixed environments to sit on Avid production infrastructure, including editorial management and NEXIS. We have Premiere Pro clients and Avid clients sitting on that same infrastructure. You can also access that content, as I stated earlier, or access those applications remotely using something like Teradici, where you can access something running on-prem like Adobe Premiere Pro, and you can do so on a thin client remotely. You can also, through the VPN, use editorial management, which you'll see in action today, accessing the same content from a browser. So you can browse, search, edit, modify metadata, and certainly store all that content, and then import that media directly into Adobe Premiere Pro. We also support all Adobe environments. So all Adobe Premiere Pro clients sitting on an Avid infrastructure is also one of the other sort of things that we're enabling as part of this deeper interoperability between the two clients. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Michael Krulik and Marjorie, who are going to walk us through what's now possible inside of the application.
Thank you, Ray. Hi, I'm Michael Krulik, Video Product Evangelist for Avid out of Los Angeles, and we are aware that small to mid-sized post-production teams and rental facilities are constantly looking for the most efficient and effective way to collaborate on-prem and remotely, in addition to not disrupting the editorial process, but to enhance it, especially when looking to incorporate an asset management system. Avid's editorial management is an intuitive and inclusive asset management system that introduces the Avid platform to Post customers that is easy to use, install, and configure. It is completely integrated with the Avid NEXIS storage and enables teams to preview and search for media, pull selects, review, and create projects from anywhere and more, using just a web browser, Avid Media Composer, or Adobe Premiere Pro. That's right, our continued partnership with Adobe is taking us to new levels of collaboration as we have added editorial management as a companion app with Adobe Premiere Pro. We'll be showing more of that shortly. Let me start off by showing you the heart of editorial management, and that is the NEXIS shared storage system. If you were not aware, NEXIS stands for the Next Generation Intelligent Storage. Besides adding more physical storage to NEXIS chassis over the years, we've enhanced workflows allowing clients to define what workspaces they want to mirror and protect, as well as extend the NEXIS file system to the cloud, offering Cloud Spaces, a SaaS-based offering to offload projects and high-resolution files off of your local system to free up local storage. Recently, we've added the ability for your NEXIS administrator to assign specific workspaces to be seen and indexed when using editorial management with the NEXIS whitelist. Using the NEXIS admin web tool, adding users to the NEXIS whitelist provides security and efficiencies to editorial management. And we also offer full support for software from Avid, of course, Adobe, Blackmagic, Apple, and now VFX workflows with Autodesk. So I'm in Los Angeles on my Mac laptop, and I'm using Chrome to log into an Avid NEXIS shared storage system that's in our headquarters in Burlington, Massachusetts. So obviously, you can be anywhere. I've logged into editorial management where I have tools allowing you to browse or search for media across all projects and workspaces that you have permission to see. If I log in using my credentials to access all of the Avid Media Composer media and projects, since that is what was assigned to me by the NEXIS and EM administrator, you'll see that the NEXIS workspaces that I can access are here on the left side in the directory panel. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Marjorie Sachs, a software quality engineer at Adobe, to help me on the Adobe side. Thank you for joining us again, Marjorie.
Hi, Michael. I'm happy to be back to show you the new integration of Adobe Premiere Pro with Avid's editorial management. You will see when I log into the web browser using my user settings, I am assigned permission to only see the workspaces on NEXIS that provide what I need for my Adobe environment. And across the top of the web browser, there are apps where you can browse and search through your NEXIS storage. Other apps allow you to view progress of renders going through the distributed processing and other processes, as well as using the customized logger. So if I browse in the editorial management system in the Browse app, it lets you view projects and media, and you'll see that the structure mirrors the bin and folder structure of my Adobe Premiere Pro projects. The icons are different than what is used for Media Composer projects and bins, so I can easily identify what is a standard folder with media, what is a Premiere Pro project, and what is an Adobe production. And if I want to view any of the media, I just double click and the asset is loaded into the media viewer. I can play the clip in a resizable viewer, or if I want a better viewing experience, I can select the full screen playback icon to see the clip in full screen. Now, I don't right now, but if I did have a second display connected to my laptop, I could also have the clip sent full screen to that second display. It's very cool as it gives me a better viewing experience of the media, but it still lets me navigate the editorial management web browser.
So Marjorie, you can also have multiple instances of the apps in the UI as well, right?
Yes, that's right. If you right-click on the app, there is a feature that lets you create more instances of the apps, and then you can drag them down into the main area of the UI to dock them. Then you can open different folders and drag media from one panel to another. It's a great way if you're working remotely and through a web browser to organize and start prepping folders with media that can be ready for editorial. Searching through the Search app, it provides filters that you can pinpoint specific media or assets by typing in names or custom metadata. And I could also filter my assets by the time modified or the time created, as well as the exact file types. And then you also have shortcuts for favorite searches, which I love, and the most recent searches that you have executed. I know that I have some skater footage that I want to preview, so searching for anything with the name skater will give me these results. And with the phonetic search option with editorial management, you can type in a spoken word and it will produce results where it believes it found a match where somebody said that particular word.
That is the same phonetic searching that is done with phrase find in Media Composer. But this one will actually search across your entire NEXIS storage system, or the workspace, of course, that you have permission to see. This is an amazing feature when searching through hours and hours of interviews or documentary footage.
Since I am in my Adobe Premiere environment, I can right-click in the directory panel and create a new folder to organize media. I can start a new Adobe production, or I could create a new project from the Adobe Premiere template. Now, I already have a great set of templates created from several other projects, and I'd like to use one of them as a starting point for this new project. Selecting to create a project from a template allows you to choose from a list of current templates, and you can see a breakdown of the entire template structure. This way, you can scan through the hierarchy to see if there is one that you'd like. You can add a title for the new project, and you're all set. And you will see the new project created and is ready to go when you access Adobe Premiere Pro. Another great thing is you can also create a template from existing projects if you right-click on it and then select Create Template from Projects. It's super easy.
That's extremely easy, and it's all done in the web browser. And how is this accessed in Adobe Premiere Pro?
Well, you have the editorial management panel available to you in Adobe Premiere Pro. You will see that the browse and search apps there are available from the panel while in Premiere. So let's take a look for some clips to bring into the editorial. I can browse through projects and folders without going to the OS level on my system. So let's use the search app to find the skater footage. So now we see the results populate in the panel, and I right-click on the clips that I want to use and select Import into Adobe Premiere Pro. I can also create Adobe templates from the panel that can be accessed in the web browser.
And the whole team can be accessing and playing media in the web browser while the editors are in Adobe Premiere Pro, which is fantastic. Thank you for taking us through that, Marjorie. Now, there's no need to actually check in assets into editorial management. This allows everyone to just do what they do: organize, review, edit, and collaborate. Let's jump into Avid Media Composer and see how editorial management can benefit teams in an Avid environment. I can also access it from a panel within Media Composer, just like I could in Premiere, which can be docked into the new UI if desired. And I have the exact same apps available to me as you saw inside of Adobe Premiere. Once I browse or search for assets here, I can simply drag and drop them in the bin, and that brings that asset into my Media Composer project. This could be a clip or even a sequence from a different project. But the benefit of adding editorial management to your production team is the added functionality for the producer, assistant, or anyone who is using the web browser to be part of the process. The directory panel shows my workspaces with Avid Media and projects. And just like with the Adobe Media, I can play the clip in the asset viewer. I can see and control audio levels for playback.
It probably takes about 15 hours out of my week. I mean, it speeds up my process that much.
I can view Avid metadata for the clip. And I can even add markers and comments to the media that will be seen on the clip by the editor that is accessing it. When you select clips that you may want to group, you now have a new feature that lets you create the group through the web browser that are set by the start timecode, allowing an assistant to prep that grouped clip for the editor. And for the producer who wants to create a shot list or rough cut for the editor, selecting the clips and right-clicking lets you create that shot list that can be seen in the timeline view. That gets saved. You see it up here. And when I double-click, it lets you see the timeline. Now here you can go in and trim the clips. You can rearrange them to new positions in the timeline. You can even go in and sub-clip your media and add any of those clips to that shot list. And once the shot list is saved, It can be seen by any others who are actually working through the web browser, or can even be opened up inside of Media Composer. The Search app with Media Composer projects lets you search across the NEXIS library by clip names, metadata, or markers, and using the phonetic search option lets you see where the words are actually spoken in relation to the media through the Hits tab. If I go and do a phonetic search and find where maybe somebody said the word film and the word director, you'll see the inline hits if you select this icon here, and you can also see where they said it in the timeline.
Film, and let's say I'm a director and a producer in the room, and when we were on film.
But underneath the viewer, you can also see where the phonetic hits are. I can mark in, I can mark out, and drag that clip into my shot list. And save. Now back in Media Composer, I can browse the bins for sequences or use the Search app, and I can drag and drop it into a bin and see what was created from the web browser. So editorial management keeps teams in sync with easy access to media and projects across your entire NEXIS storage system from anywhere. Whether you're an Adobe environment, whether you're an Avid environment, you have a choice. So this was just a quick overview of the latest tools and features in the 2020.10 release of Avid's editorial management and the addition of the Adobe Premiere projects and productions to the platform. I'd like to thank Marjorie Sachs from Adobe for helping me out today, and I'll hand it back to Ray.
Thanks, Michael. So that was great. And thank you, Marjorie. That was an awesome demo. So I think what you see there is a couple things. One, you see how editorial management acts as a sort of middleman doing that collaboration across the different platforms. It allows you to basically use it not only as a standalone browser where you can easily search for and find content and do some editing and then ultimately share that content, but it also shows you how you can easily grab that content and use it inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. And then it also shows you how you can modify the metadata. And then that metadata follows that clip around the production. And so you can see how this helps with the entire content pipeline, and you can see how it helps the different roles within the delivery cycle, including folks doing logging, maybe doing pre-production work, certainly the actual craft editors themselves, as well as the producers. And so this is really geared towards that small to medium post market where you have smaller client counts that can leverage NEXIS and use editorial management to help drive that. And really, at the end of the day, what's driving all of this sort of interoperability is the partnership between Avid and Adobe. So quickly, some history here. So back in 2012 was really sort of the first cooperation between the two companies, if you will, where Adobe licensed Avid DNX and made it available inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. And then we, in 2015, introduced the ability to have a panel-like experience on the older version of MediaCentral UX and the old storage platform known as ISIS. And then, of course, now with 2020, you can see that there's a significantly improved amount of interoperability that's been added across the board, both in MediaCentral Cloud UX and now in editorial management. Of course, the benefits above and beyond the interoperability is that higher efficiency. So if you think back to the beginning of the presentation where, post-production facilities need to deliver content, deliver high quality content, and deliver it to more partners and try and do more simultaneously, this is really what we're enabling between the two platforms. Also providing sort of mixed environments or all Adobe environments to take advantage of the asset management tool sets and the storage tool sets that Avid has been providing into the market for a long time. So it's a great relationship between the two companies. And then also available now is the fact that Adobe has released a build of Adobe Premiere Pro that facilitates Media Composer and Adobe AAF interoperability. And that is available as of the most recent release. And I will tell you that the cooperation between the two companies is certainly not finished. So I would say keep an eye out for more coming from both companies as we continue what has been a great partnership. In terms of some examples of deployments and the way in which you can deploy either MediaCentral Cloud UX or the editorial management version that you just saw, here's a few examples that we have today. This is a major broadcast network here in the US. It currently has 60 plus Adobe Premiere Pro clients running on Avid NEXIS. We have another example here of a government organization, a large government organization that's using not just NEXIS, but MediaCentral Cloud UX and accessing content remotely and or accessing their workstations remotely by using either VPNs and using the browser-based tool sets available in Cloud UX, or using PCOIP to basically access desktop systems running on-prem, so they can also enable work from home type scenarios. And they're doing pretty much the full gamut of what's possible inside of the environment. We also have a major sports broadcaster also using all the tool sets. A cool thing to sort of call out here is the fact that this broadcaster happens to also have third-party storage hanging off of the back of the NEXIS file system. And so they're able to, through the MAM system, search for and find that content and bring it back into the NEXIS file system using MediaCentral Cloud UX. And of course, MediaCentral Cloud UX supports multi-site searches, whereas editorial management is focused only on what's happening on-prem. And then you have Adobe Premiere Pro in a large corporate environment. They're using this implementation to do Pro Tools mixing, as well as create content that's available in their stores, as well as creating content for product launches inside of their own studio. And then last but certainly not least, the most applicable example for editorial management is in a small to medium-sized post facility where you have multiple Premiere Pro clients sitting on the Avid NEXIS file system, leveraging editorial management to search for, find, and edit content, and ultimately achieve that higher level of interoperability between the platforms. Some of the key differentiators for the editorial management version of what we released, or it will be releasing, I should say, in the coming days, is first and foremost, fast access to content and allowing you to browse and search remotely using the browser. Improved performance, greater interoperability, driving that higher efficiency we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. And then the ability to leverage phonetic search, which is an add-on option, allows you to search down to the word or phrase to quickly find content, analyzing massive libraries in a matter of seconds, so that you can easily find that content and ultimately edit that content very fast, all sitting on the Avid NEXIS storage platform, which again offers a variety of different options when it comes to whatever your storage strategy is going to be in terms of meeting both the operational and economic needs for your organization, and being able to build out that strategy over time. So as you grow, you can grow your implementations. And then editorial management and the panel for Adobe Premiere Pro and the connector, which is doing sort of the behind the scenes work to enable the access of that content off of NEXIS. All of this supporting either mixed environments or all Adobe environments. With the benefits being, we're driving that efficiency, we're improving the interoperability, which we'll continue to do, for the ability to deliver faster across more sort of partners in an increasing number of platforms. And real quick, what I wanted to do, so that's where we are with editorial management and the interop between Adobe Premiere Pro and the Avid NEXIS file system and editorial management. But quickly, I wanted to remind folks who may or may not have been available for the launch back on September 25th, where we talked about what's possible with MediaCentral and MediaCentral Cloud UX and Avid Production Management and Avid Asset Management. So back then we announced the ability to do a lot of the same functionalities you just saw and then some, where you could actually have the MediaCentral panel running inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. This is for larger post organizations who also need to take advantage of things like maybe automation or need asset management on top of production management. And it's a much more elaborate system. They need multi-site searches. They need to maybe even do things like play out or distribute content to social and digital platforms. And a lot of that is enabled in what we announced back at the tail end of September. So MediaCentral Cloud UX, if you're not familiar, is also a browser-based tool set. It allows you to do things like ingest content, file-based content. It allows you to do searches and sorts based on either time and or based on just straight up metadata searches. And of course, it does also offer the phonetic index option. It also allows you to search across multiple sites. So you can search for content sitting on local NEXIS systems running asset management, either production or media asset management, but you can also search across multiple sites. And it also scales in multiple directions. It's an open platform, of course, so we support a variety of different APIs and tool sets to allow other third parties to integrate into the platform, which extends what is possible on the platform. And that's all part of the MediaCentral Cloud UX implementation. And what we showed at the tail end of September was the ability to run a panel inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. So you could take advantage of all of the apps that are available inside of MediaCentral, with a few minor exceptions, and to allow you to basically search for and find content and then bring that into Adobe Premiere Pro, further modify that content, and then ultimately put that content back into the file system where you could then do things like automation, more content processing, and or even send to playback or publish to social media or digital platforms. And all of that is made possible with the MediaCentral implementation that we launched at the tail end of September and is out there in the market today. And some of the key differentiating features there, of course, similar to what you can do with editorial management in terms of creating projects, either net new projects, either inside of the browser or inside of the panel for Adobe Premiere Pro. But you also have the ability to create from templates, which means that you can leverage a template that's already been created, and you can actually use the existing folder structure to quickly create those projects using what's already been done. And then there's the metadata mapping feature. Because there's databases in the larger implementations, you want to map the metadata so you can enable that metadata search to be even that much more powerful when you're searching for content in these environments. And so that is one of the cool tool sets that you can have in the larger implementations for post. And then, of course, we're supporting both mixed environments with Adobe Premiere Pro and Media Composer running on the same production infrastructure, and enabling that multi-site search and remote accessing from pretty much anywhere. As Michael just showed, he's in LA and he's accessing a system that's in Burlington. And that's how we did the demo. And then the same thing for all Adobe environments, where you can have all Adobe clients sitting on Avid production infrastructure, allowing Adobe Premiere Pro clients to have the option when it comes to looking for a proven asset management and storage system for their production. So with that, and we got that, I think, through that in a decent amount of time, about 40 minutes, we're going to open it up for some questions. And so let me just go to the QA panel here and see what we have. All right, so we have a question here. We work heavily in multicam productions and are limited due to the lack of support to view clips that have been grouped already. Is there any information on where this could be resolved? So I don't know, Mike, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. In the demonstration, I did show that you can now create a group clip in the web browser using timecode, the source timecode that's coming, of course, from the clips themselves. So currently in the web browser, we can create groups, but as far as editorially, that is done back on the editing system. So at this point, we can't view the group clips in the web browser with editorial management. But again, the idea of the tool in that role would be to more prep the media for editorial. Okay, great.
And then in terms of metadata and importing custom metadata, you can do that on the larger, or I should say on MediaCentral Cloud UX, but not with editorial management. Is that right, Michael?
Correct. We do have that metadata mapper, which you mentioned in the presentation on the asset management, production management system. But on EM, on editorial management, if you do have metadata in the clips themselves, on the Media Composer and Avid side, there are some comments and things that can be added to the media and the metadata in the web browser. But as far as on the Adobe side, it's bringing in everything mainly from the clips themselves and currently cannot be altered or added to.
Okay. Yep, so that's a good one. So Jay, if you have MediaCentral Cloud UX, there is a way to map metadata. For editorial management, there is not. Mike has a question here around smaller phonetic search. So for those who don't necessarily want to be able to search the entire NEXIS, would rather have a more limited subset of that. Do you know, Michael, is that an option?
It's not an option, but I think that might be defined through the NEXIS whitelist. I have to confirm that, but again, the whitelist will allow you to define workspaces that are limiting what you can go into create. So, I think there was being able to search by what's cached as well. Because there is an editorial management, you can select a project or a bin and actually turn on and off what is being cached. I didn't show that, but if anybody wants to see that, you can feel free to set up a demo with us live and we can go through all of these options.
Awesome, thanks, Michael. And then, yes, there is a link to the prior launch webinar. You can actually find it on YouTube. It looks like somebody already answered that one, but that one's definitely out there. Seeing phonetic search offered as an add-on in my production management environment. It's an included aspect within editorial management. It's not included, it is an add-on for editorial management as well. So good question, Morgan, thank you. Is MediaCentral necessary for the editorial management panel within Premiere? No. So editorial management is its own tool set. And so MediaCentral is one set of tools that works primarily with production asset management and media asset management, while you have editorial management that runs, excuse me, as its own panel within inside of Adobe Premiere Pro.
And you may see that when when I was in the web browser in the Windows, the initial splash screen did say MediaCentral Cloud UX because it is using that
that's right.
to link into it. So hopefully that's not confusing.
Yep, no, that's a good point. That's right.
And I mean, I do also want to point out when I'm in the web browser, you can be anywhere, but I was remoting into an instance of Media Composer or Adobe, or Margie was in Adobe Premiere, going through a remote access to a local system connected to NEXIS. So I didn't want to be confusing with that as far as how we were accessing the media and the projects.
Yep. Okay, good. Thank you. And then in terms of Andrea, she asks, is there a way to seamlessly access other Adobe products like After Effects and Photoshop? So great question. We get this one a lot. So the answer today is no. But I would guess, I would just say stay tuned on that one. That's about all we can say there. Let's see, can I filter the phonetic search results to only show results within one single Premiere Pro project?
The answer there is yes. We didn't get into a lot of the big details for searching, but when you select the filtering or the searching, there is a whole pull down to select markers or names, but a whole list of information that you can go in and filter and say, through the editorial management system, I only want to look in this one project and then find media for that project. So any of those filters that you do create, again, you can save in the directory panel on the left side to a saved search to either limit maybe a certain project that you want to go to and then dive down deeper into the search at that point. But the short answer is yes, you can actually filter by project.
Good. That's great. How does editorial management differ from Edit on Demand? So Edit on Demand is a turnkey production in the cloud. It includes, Media Composer, NEXIS file system running on Azure Blob Storage, and the tools to basically push content into and out of the cloud, as well as the Teradici client. And that's all offered as a single service, which you can buy by the month, by the week, or annually, of course. Whereas editorial management is a deployable solution. It can run on the cloud, but it's primarily, I would say today, mostly deployed on-prem. And it is a sort of lightweight asset management tool set, really designed for sort of small to medium post environments. And it's really, again, targeted also at post, meaning it's not necessarily for, say, broadcast news, but rather the tool sets that are baked into it are really catering to a post workflow. So hopefully that answers that one. Let's see what other good ones we got here.
Pointing out another thing that came up in some of the other questions as far as being able to share stuff. Realize that if you do create, a project or a sequence in Media Composer and have an AAF, you can open that up inside of Premiere and read that same media as well. So you can still work with shared projects of media.
Okay, cool. How about format restrictions? Any format restrictions, Michael, that we should speak to?
Format restrictions. I think they're Depending on currently, I think there might be a limit with long-GOP media, but we are working on that as far as a new plugin which will enable that. But as far as other assets, again, I'd have to wrap my head around specifically what they are, but they should be all pretty common, I mean, as far as what we're working with.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. A lot of these have been answered. They're all really good questions. Is NEXIS the only shared storage that this will work with, Michael?
Yes. Yes, it is. So yeah, you are working in a full NEXIS environment, fully supported with the editorial management on Premiere.
Yep. So for editorial management, just to make sure we differentiate, so editorial management has to have NEXIS, whereas you're using MediaCentral Cloud UX and you have, say, media asset management or production management. Certainly with media asset management, you can introduce a third-party storage system for, say, archive, for example, and that is certainly supported, and there's a whole list of folks who have integrated into the MediaCentral platform. So if you're using MediaCentral Cloud UX, that is an option. Editorial management, it is not today. Let's see.
I think there's a question there about phonetic searching available in the Adobe panel. Yes, you do have the phonetic searching in there as well. It is honestly going to work a little different than it does in Media Composer, where you will be able to search phonetically and it'll find the clip, and you could bring that clip or import it into Adobe Premiere and edit that. Whereas in Media Composer, it does bring up that actual list of phonetic hits on where it is in the media. But to answer your question, yes, you can do a phonetic search with the Adobe panel.
Okay, and then in the demo today, what you showed, Michael, you were basically remoting into a demo setup that's in Burlington, right? So Kevin is asking, once media is imported to Premiere, does it require an internet connection, or are they editing with the local media at that point? So basically what you were showing today in the demo is you were remoting in. Can you just describe, a little bit more about the configuration and how you kind of tunneled in, if you will?
Yeah, as far as the web browser, again, I was able to remote in. I mean, I did access it using, going in through VPN because I'm going into our corporate network. So I was able to use the web browser to look at media, and any media that I'm looking at through the web browser, no matter how it's set up on NEXIS, it actually generates the proxy on the fly that I'm able to play back and actually move through. I'm hoping you were able to see how playback actually worked. It was really smooth on my system. I know Zoom, potentially when you are playing things, may not look as smooth, but it is actually very smooth on my local system rather than going through Zoom. But the editorial systems, I was using the Z Central, the RGS, being able to remote in from my laptop on a Mac laptop to the PC, which actually is in Burlington, which is directly connected to the Avid NEXIS. So anything I was doing inside of the editing system in Media Composer, and Marjorie, when she was connecting into Adobe Premiere, was connecting to a remote system, but that stuff was connected to the NEXIS locally. So I wasn't actually downloading media to a local, to my system inside of the editors.
Okay, that's good. And in terms of updates, so Adobe updates their apps regularly. Will the compatibility matrix between NEXIS Editorial Management and Adobe Premiere Pro be published and kept up to date? Good question. I'm going to say yes on that one, Robert. We'll definitely go and make sure that is indeed kept up to date. Good question. So, well, I think we've hit on most of these. I guess if there are no other questions, we can end it here. And just a reminder, we will publish a link to this webinar, and we will also publish answers to all the questions, including for those of you who may be watching this on some of the social media platforms. If you've asked questions on those platforms, we'll try and aggregate all of those and provide all those answers along with the recording. I want to first and foremost thank Adobe for their partnership and for all of whom being here today. So Marjorie and Van, thank you. I also want to thank Michael for doing a great job in the demo as always. And I want to thank all my Avid colleagues who have been answering these questions in the background throughout the course of the presentation. And I want to thank all of you for being here today. So thank you very much. And you'll get an email with a link for this recording and the answers to the questions. So thank you again. Go to avid.com and learn more. And once again, thank you. Have a great day.